Angry guy here, and masturbation saves lives, pornography ruins them. Masturbation saves lives, pornography ruins them. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Yo, pornography ruined my life at one time. I was actually addicted to pornography. I was introduced to pornography at a very early age. And I am going to be as transparent as possible with you guys because that's how it should be. All this fabrication and faking that people went through things or speaking about things they don't know about, I don't really subscribe to that. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? People do all this research and then jump cut and then get on here and talk about stuff they never experienced. I don't subscribe to that. Well, when I was in high school, I think the peak of it was like my 10th grade year. I was addicted bad, and it ruined many different aspects of my life. I didn't really have the confidence to talk to girls in person. I didn't really have the mental clarity to focus on things other than lustful activities and lustful thoughts. Sometimes I would even avoid being around my family just so I could get in the back room and do the deed, and it was disgusting. I felt like a shell of a person. I was always disgusted with myself. I always regretted it, and it was just a cheap outlet to just degeneracy. And it felt even worse when you released all these hormones and did all these things, but you were still alone. I didn't have anyone to call mine. I'm young, like, you know what I'm saying? But it was a disgusting period of time. And it was bad, man. I would go to school and these girls, certain girls would flirt with me, and I would go on the hub and find someone that looked identical to them. Like, you could literally find anything you want on there. It's pretty crazy the access you have on the internet, and it's dangerous. But it got bad, man. It was almost like every day I was getting it in. And I noticed a difference in my physical health. Now, I've always been in shape, but I'm telling you, bro, I used to work out so much, but I would also release so much. My gains never changed. Now, yes, I made some increases, and I was growing too as a young male. But when I stopped, bro, I didn't have to work out nearly as much and retain muscle and all this stuff. But it got to the point where I was just so disgusted with myself. And I stumbled on a video. I wish I could remember so I could shout out to whoever it was. But I seen the concept of semen retention. And then I heard something about Mike Tyson doing it and this and that. So I wanted to try it out. 2 days went by, I relapsed. I went like a day after that, relapsed again. Then after that, I went a week, relapsed again. After that, I went like 2 weeks without releasing, and I relapsed again. And then after that, I went on a 8-month stretch without releasing. And when I did, it was not, with my hand. And man, in that period of time, people, look, it's not a superpower to retain and all this stuff. Eventually it can be, but it's not gonna make you glow. It's not gonna. It's the byproduct of doing those things, conquering yourself. That's what I like to call it. When you conquer yourself, you conquer your lust. When you conquer your desires, that's what makes you glow. That energy that's what's inside of you. You know what I'm saying? People not just gonna walk up, you're retaining. Maybe now since it's such a talked about theme, but they gonna be like, man, it's just something about you, man, or. You know what I'm saying? Even if they don't, you feel better about yourself when you learn to control your desires and not dig into that life. But over the course of those 8 months, especially after that first few weeks and the first months and stuff, those desires started to lessen, right? And I began to conquer myself. And instead of being so bored and staying up to 3 o'clock at night and, finding an activity to help me out, I start filling my time, man, with more meaningful things. Even just playing the game sometimes. I just filled in that space. Get so busy to where you don't have time to be distracted, to where you don't have time to touch it. You know what I mean? When you get tired, lay down. Put the phone away. But over the course of those 8 months, I felt like a superhero. One of the things that helped me out was deleting the distractions. It's hard to get distracted if there's no distractions. Any girls I would see that was half naked on Snapchat or Instagram, I would unfollow them, delete them. And still to this day, I have accounts that were on my social medias that I didn't even know how they got there. Some people buy out meme accounts and turn them into explicit content pages because they know they trap a lot of vulnerable minds. And I've had relationship issues about this thing. I'm like, look, I've been in that place before. I'm not going back there. So you're not gonna tell me that I'm some lustful human being and I'm conquered by lust abound the earth, because I was that at one point in time and I hated that. I was disgusted by that. And I took the shadowy path to go conquer myself and go through that. Right? So I'm not lying to you by telling you I don't indulge in these things. I'm being truthful. I was disgusted. I hated myself for those things. You understand what I'm saying? It was disgusting. Disgusting to me. And I hated it. So I decided to make a change. And like I said, over the course of those months, it was just, bro, life changing. I gained more confidence. In that time, I actually created an alternate ego called HBK Mun that had confidence. He had conversation skills. He was able to talk to girls, and he stopped touching himself and all this stuff. If I'm gonna release, it ain't gonna be by me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just telling myself all these little things, creating all these little nuances, and it actually worked. And it got to the point where I truly just stopped desiring any of that. Right now, what you can run into is when you stop, the desires may come, more intense. The pleasure in doing, the real thing, the real deed, it becomes more pleasurable. But you just have to find a balance, man. Eliminate those distractions. Just resist it, man. Choose not to do it. A lot of us get addicted and we think it's no way out and we think it's too hard to quit all these things. But the easiest part is just deciding not to quit. Or the hardest part is deciding not to quit or deciding to quit. If you're addicted, decide to not be addicted. Decide to.
So, guys, I want to talk a bit about this. If you notice the consistency of his argument, he makes it very clear that it's not going to give you superpowers. Or the superpowers that you think that you're going to gain. It's more so being able to control your lust and your desire. And that should be something that every man strives for. In today's age, in today's era, sadly, so many men are consumed by their desire, by their lust, that they can no longer control themselves. This is why we talk about the necessity of post-nut clarity. A lot, and women know this. Women know very well about post-nut clarity because they experience it. They'll hook up with a guy that they're far. The guy is far out of their league. They'll hook up with the dude, and then after the dude, he experiences that post-nut clarity. He doesn't want to have anything else to do with her. He's like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? Oh my God, why are you here? Who are you? She's like, I'm Sheila. We met at the club. Oh my God. There's a strange woman in my house. Oh my God, listen, you need to get your stuff and you need to get out. You need to get your stuff and you need to get out. All right? I didn't let you in. Bro, we just hooked up. That was another person. That was another life. You need to go, miss. You need to go. You need to go. The police are on the way. When did you call the police? I dialed 911 when you weren't looking. They can, the dispatcher is hearing everything. You need to leave. These are the results of post-nut clarity. What he said very clearly is this, guys. It wasn't plucking the chicken wasn't the problem, Plucking the chicken from time to time is not the problem. It's about balance. It's actually looking at the illicit material, being constantly exposed to it. That's what's destroying a lot of young men. I don't know if you guys understand this. When we were growing up, almost every, and when I say every, I mean like almost every convenience store had these adult magazines. Y'all remember that? And back in those days, women didn't complain about anything. They just saw them there and they minded their business. And a guy could go in, he can grab a magazine, pick it up, purchase it, and go home with it. And a lot of the time, it was common to for sons to find dad's collection and steal one of them, like steal dad's old Hustler or dad's old Playboy. You remember those days? Or keeping a magazine under your bed. That was so normal. And one of the things that was so different back then is the quality. Like, if you look at those magazines from back in those days, they didn't look anything like the garbage that we have today. The people in those magazines actually looked like human beings. and the mental stimulation that you got from them was very, very different because they weren't so exaggerated. Like if you look at like Belle, Dell, and you know who I'm talking about, Miss Fiend. It's like that's how these people look when they're doing these things. It's like absolutely, it's so exaggerated, it's so fake. You know, there's a lot of people who say that it's like looking at this stuff today on the hub is a form of cuckery. You know, I've already said this. Gen X did not raise Gen Z. Gen X is not responsible for Gen Z being such terrible human beings. Gen Z were awesome people. So how could you end up being such nasty narcissist when you were raised by such a great group of people that were overall very chill? We're not going to, be, as a generation, not going to, harm their children the way the boomers, and other generations were pretty harmful. It's not that Gen Z did not get punished enough or that they were given too much. The problem with Gen Z is that Gen Z was raised by the internet. They were 100% raised by the internet. If you look at toys right now, for example, Toys R Us has been making a comeback. Toys R Us isn't for Gen Z. Toys R Us is for adults. Like in terms of what people want. It's not. It's toys that are actually being sold. Like for example, there's a new series called X-Men '97, which is a continuation of the X-Men series, the X-Men animated series from the 1990s, and they're releasing a toy collection. And I saw the new toys, and those toys are for millennials and Gen X. Okay, those are for older millennials and Gen X. Those toys are not for Gen Z. They are not for Gen Alpha. They don't want those things. They would rather They would rather They'd rather NFCs or something digital over this stuff. They're not interested in any of these things. Their entire minds exist in the cyberspace. Guys, I've already talked about this. What Mark Zuckerberg did with the metaverse was not aimed at us. It's aimed at Gen Z and Gen Alpha. You're going to have these people in the future, very near future. We're talking about 5 to 10 years. And we're going to start calling these people, they're going to be Met dash heads. What does that stand for? Basically, meta heads. People who are so trapped in the metaverse, are so messed up, like they basically live in that reality that it has now had a very negative effect on them when they come out of that reality. Guys, these people are going to be terrible. They're going to be absolutely terrible. I've already said this, that many Gen Alphas, the generation that's born after Gen Z, guys, these guys are like 13 years old now. Okay, Gen Alpha, they're like 13 years old now. This is not a game. 10 years, these guys will be like 23 years old. Okay, in like 5-6 years, these guys will be 18, 19 years old. This is not a game. All right. Many of these people will never enter the workforce. I guarantee you, many of these Gen Alphas, the generation after Gen Z, they will never step foot into the workforce 100%. And they will jump into cyberspace. They will live in the metaverse. And that's it. Because they were born into a world where there has always been smartphones. They cannot remember a world before smartphones. For many Gen Zers, a lot of Gen Zers cannot remember a world before smartphones. They received smartphones as children. On the other hand, Gen Alpha, they were all born into worlds with smartphones. There was no world before a smartphone for them. By the time they don't know a world without smartphones. They grew up with smartphones and iPads. They're even worse than Gen Z, and Gen Z is terrible. So when you consider this and when you understand this, then you realize where things are headed. And these people they're going to have complete and utter connections that are going to be in cyberspace. There was a movie called, I think it was like Demolition Man or something. It was like with Wesley Snipe and another actor. And they basically showed how intimacy, sex occurred in the future. And it was basically using machines where like, to a man and a woman, they'd use machines. They were no longer reproducing the natural way. And they called it, like, this is how a lot of relationships are going to happen going forward, where it's going to be between screens, where people are going to engage in coitus physical intimacy using the metaverse, using the internet. People are going to literally use the internet, okay, to engage in physical intimacy. And they're going to start talking about, well, we need rules in place on consent and all this other stuff. And there are going to be a lot of people who will only engage in physical intimacy through the internet. Sword Art Online, that's an anime. Guys, it was ahead of its time, where basically people basically live in the metaverse, and it scans your, we have these video games right now. People don't really know about it, but I've seen them, and it scans your brain waves. It's basically like an EEG, and you can control the games using your mind. And this is where we're headed, where you're going to put on a headset and you're going to be inside of the game, just controlling the entire game, using your head, using your mind to do actions and walk around and do different things. And it's only going to become more refined to the point where you're going to live there. And not only are you going to live there, guys, there's a saying that the internet is for porn, and that's what the metaverse is going to become. A big part of it is going to basically be people having intimate relationships in the metaverse. But anyway, guys, like I said, masturbation saves lives, pornography ruins them. I want to know if you agree with this. The full video is going to be linked in the comments. If you want to watch this full video and hear everything he had to say, you can check out the link in the description of the video to find that. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.